Allegedly, Biden's staffers, meaning people working within the Biden White House, and members of the mainstream corporate press feel betrayed and misled about Biden's mental decline. But they're all full of crap, if you ask me. And I have receipts to prove it. Stick around for those receipts, you're gonna wanna see them. Now, they've, in my opinion, known for a long time that Biden has had some issues. And I think they're part of this cover up. And I think that they should not in any way have their reputations laundered by what's happening right now, what they're saying in the press today. So one of the reporters who's actually done a great job on reporting on Biden's mental decline is Alex Thompson over at Axios. And Axios overall has done a good job covering this. Now, they write that lawmakers and top Democrats feel duped by Biden. His press office, his campaign co-chairman, Jeffrey Katzenberg, his top aides, they all promised the president was sharper than ever. Some of Biden's own staff is replaying in their heads the past few years, wondering if Biden's decline was purposely hidden. These staffers wondered why people in roles that typically brought access were kept away. They assumed Biden was a proud private man, more comfortable with his family. Post-debate, some feel this was a big orchestrated effort to conceal the episodic moments of concern. In hindsight, they say it's clear Biden needed help recalling people or events and getting sufficient rest to handle big moments. These clowns knew all along. They knew all along because issues involving Biden's mental decline, not new. And didn't just come up for the first time during this election cycle. They knew as far back as 2019, 2020. And here's our coverage of it back then. Bernie Sanders was asked to comment on what everyone's been talking about, which is his political opponent's mental decline. And as always, Bernie Sanders took the high road. Take a look.
Some of Joe Biden's answers don't make sense. Do you think it's acceptable for a presidential candidate to respond to questions like Joe Biden does?
This isn't a personal attack, but it gets to Nina's question. And the question of Joe Biden's mental acuity is not something that just comes up. Senator, your thoughts?
I'm not going to go at that level in attacking. Joe and I have, that's for people to decide.
I agree with Brett Baer in that this isn't just, it's not a personal attack.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right, it's Chris, but anyway.
I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont? You had people like Margaret Thatcher. You had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany. This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is
that's not true. The other one is here.
Really, they didn't know? I remember when those questions were raised back in 2020, in 2019. Oh, there was an orchestrated effort to shut those concerns down and smear anyone who asked those legitimate questions. And it worked, So now those same people are gonna turn around and be like, oh, I am so aggrieved. I feel lied to and betrayed. Get out of here. You guys knew and you were part of the cover up. So please spare me the nonsense. Many of them engaged in the smear tactics against anyone who dared to ask questions. I have more evidence for you. I'm not done with the receipts, but before we get to that, Cenk, thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
So look, Axios can often be a very establishment too, but in this case, Jim Vandehei and Mike Allen are being accurate here, and they have pointed out some real reporting from Axios about his age. But one of the things that they said really struck me as a bigger factor than people realize, which is they say, look, when we question Biden's age and his mental fitness, we would get huge pushback from the White House. So that's factor number one. And so let's note for the record then that most journalists, when pressured by the powerful, backed down and told a story that the powerful wanted that was untrue. That's for the great majority of our national media. And that's why they're so upset, because they look like idiots and cowards now because
they are.
Because they were cowards. But the second part is even more interesting. They explain, well, whenever we did anything like this, there would be tons of people on Twitter who would yell at us, who were like social media guys, Democratic consultants, Democratic operatives, but mainly it's people that the mainstream media has trained to be blue MAGA.
You ready for more receipts?
Yes.
You ready? Because I'm ready. Let's go to graphic 4 here. This is a headline from The Hill, August 15th, 2019. Biden allies float scaling back events to limit gaffes, okay? Here is an excerpt from the piece. Allies to Joe Biden have been floating the idea of altering the former vice president's schedule in an effort to reduce the gaffes he has made in recent days. The allies, growing increasingly nervous about Biden's verbal flubs, have said it's an approach that's been suggested to campaign officials on the heels of the former vice president's stumbles. Like, this was all playing out in the open, okay, back in 2019. There's more. Biden has a tendency to make the blunders late in the day. This is 2019, his allies say, particularly after a long swing on the road like he had last week in Iowa. They say something needs to be done to give the candidate more downtime as the campaign intensifies in the fall.
So they've known for 5 years.
They've known. I know that they've known. We've all known that they've known, because again, these issues came up in the Democratic primary back in 2019, 2020, okay? And then you made a point about reporters having difficulty in just simply reporting the truth on this. A lot of them will deal with the Biden camp basically going after them and being incredibly difficult. Well, one of the good reporters on this issue is Alex Thompson. And so he was asked about the difficulties he's had in reporting this story. I want to go to that video next. I believe this is D3. Let's watch.
I mean, it's not been fun. I mean, no one likes to get in a fight with the White House, and at times I felt a little bit out there on a limb, even though I felt very confident in the reporting. I think it's just natural. You look around and see, well, other people aren't writing it as much as well. And part of that is because the White House comms team, I think, has been very effective at being able to push back on these stories by inserting sort of, well, Trump did, crazy things with his schedule too, and watched TV all the time, didn't seem as energetic. This president, this White House has limited press access to the president more than any president in several decades. I'll give you just like a few examples here. This president has never done a sit down with the New York Times, with the Washington Post, with the Wall Street Journal, even with Reuters, let alone places like Axios or Politico. He very rarely does sustain sit-down interviews. That has changed just a little bit in the last month or two. You saw him sit down with ABC. Yep. You saw him sit down with Time Magazine. But those are the exceptions to the rule.
So obviously the Biden White House cuts off access to reporters, and it's very intentionally done, clearly intentionally done, to shield the public from knowing the truth about his mental decline. But to Thompson's credit, he stayed on the story, dealt with the smears, but continued reporting the truth. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for reporters who are willing to do that. Go ahead, Cenk.
I have a definitive fact that's going to settle this matter in a second. First, I want to tell you that very likely tomorrow on the show, Brian Stelter will come on, former host of Reliable Sources on CNN, and we're going to debate this issue because he thinks that the media is being treated unfairly. Okay, so well, hold, let's let him make his case, and we'll discuss that tomorrow every day, Monday through Friday. Show starts at 6 o'clock Eastern, goes till 8 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're checking it out. Amazing things happen every day on the show. Now, give you some facts here. Reporters, the same reporters who criticized Donald Trump, would say he's not doing nearly enough press conferences. He did 3 times as many press conferences as Joe Biden. So the reporters that were yelling at Trump that he's not doing enough, where were you on Joe Biden? Every once in a while we get a little bit of complaint, but would there be a uprising like, why is he hiding? He only did 1/3 of the press conferences of Donald Trump, who spent most of his presidency playing golf and watching Fox News. So way worse on that account. He did 1/5 of the press conferences that Barack Obama did. He's been hiding the whole time, but now the killer fact. He did not do the Super Bowl interview And the Super Bowl interview is where a lot of us, again, Nate Silver, Ezra Klein, myself, all at that point realized it's over. And that's why they did what they did in speaking out and I did what I did. Because it's a softball interview that reaches a huge percentage of the country, including a lot of people who are not political. It is the perfect interview for someone running for president. And he turned it down. The only reason you turn that down is because you are not mentally capable of even doing a softball interview. No, it was that's when you knew he's not gonna be able to campaign. And it's been 10 days. And so what did he do? He did a phone call to Joe Scarborough. He wrote a letter. Now, he didn't write it. His staff wrote a letter to Congress. He did a straightforward interview with ABC for 22 minutes that was taped. He did 2 other interviews with randos that nobody's ever heard of and fed them the questions.
Yep.
So he still hasn't done a press conference. He still hasn't been challenged. He hasn't done a tough interview. He's gonna try to hide the rest of the campaign.
He's gonna try to hide, okay? And look, their tactics unfortunately worked back in 2020. I don't think it's gonna work this time around.
There's no chance it's gonna work.
And by the way, loyalists to Biden are still attempting to engage in the same smear tactics. So I want to go to the final video here. This is Ana Navarro on The View today. Watch.
For the last 8 days, it feels to me, I have seen nothing but breathless reporting. It almost feels like media malpractice of them trying to score the winning goal against Biden. Who can have the gotcha moment? They've been splicing, dicing, cubing everything he says, putting on a microscopic slide, and then looking at it under all sorts of magnifying glasses. Look. Joe Biden is the nominee. He is the human being standing between us and Donald Trump. I think Democrats need to stop making the case against Joe Biden and start making the case against Donald Trump.
Are they having a difficult time understanding that if you want to make the case that Trump shouldn't be the president, then you'd want the strongest possible Democrat to run against Donald Trump? Someone who is displaying just these jarring signs of cognitive decline, mental decline, is not the best candidate to run against Donald Trump. And the reason why they're panicking and the reason why they want to silence the critics and those who are concerned is because this cover up has been going on so long that it wasn't until the debate that people finally woke up to the reality, okay? It way late in the game, I get it, but it's not too late to replace him. The thing is, he's delusional, and so are the people who are backing him right now.
But the reason that Ana Navarro, Whoopi Goldberg, Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, and the rest don't want to tell you about how you've been tricked is because they're the people who tricked you.
Exactly.
They were the ones driving the getaway car. So they're all friends with him. You know, Whoopi Goldberg on that same show today said, I don't care if Joe Biden poops his pants and can't function at all.
Then let's not have a president at all.
But
if the role of the president of the United States is really that useless, then we shouldn't even have an executive branch. We shouldn't have an executive. We should not have a president of the United States. If it's that useless, if it's that worthless.
Anna, you're getting to one of the points I wanted to make. Okay, so number one, you're not gonna win an election if you say our guy's gonna poop his pants every day, but don't worry, vote for him anyway.
Insane.
If you can't see that that's not gonna win the election, you're purposely blind or a blithering idiot. And I don't think they're idiots, they're purposely blind because they're part of this scheme, right? So, but the second point is, there are 2 main planks in this election are, Donald Trump's a liar, but now we see Joe Biden lying about his mental health, obviously, when 8 out of 10 Americans think he's not mentally healthy enough. And then when they double down on that lie, what they're saying to 8 out of 10 Americans, the people who are going to decide this election, is, oh yeah, we think you're idiots. We think you're seeing it wrong. No, he's perfectly healthy and young. It's your fault for seeing it that way.
You're helping Trump. You're helping Trump.
Do you think that's a winning strategy? Okay, but last one is to the point that Anna was making. It's a really good point. Because think about it. Their second big talking point for the election is democracy's on the line. But now they're saying, who cares if the president functions or not? We're gonna have the same government either way. So wait, do we have a democracy or don't we have a democracy? And I thought you cared about democracy. And now you're saying, I don't mind if the president's a vegetable because we don't really have a democracy anyway. It is devastating. it is hypocrisy like I've never seen before, and I've seen them be massively hypocritical before. So this is the core of the most establishment media in the country going, we don't care, we're still gonna lie to you, and we're still gonna pretend that Biden's fine, and we think you're a bunch of suckers, and that you'll believe it. And at the end, you'll vote for our guy, even if you guys don't think that he's mentally healthy enough.
Wrong again, Bob.
Yeah, you're wrong. And all of you, all of those people who are defending Biden now in media, you're all guilty. When Donald Trump wins in a landslide that's gonna give him a mandate to totally destroy this government, we're gonna play those tapes over and over and over again. I'm going to humiliate every single person in mainstream media that said Biden should be the candidate until they're driven from the airwaves and live the rest of their lives in deep shame for what they've done.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, we really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.